So these are the ingredients that I'll be using today to make my very popular potato salad. My friends all enjoy it. So it's fairly simple, but it does have maybe more things in it than most people normally put in it. I wrote a story in my book about how my grandmother would make potato salad, and each time you ate it, it was kind of an adventure because you didn't know really what was going to be in it. You didn't know what to expect. Sometimes there'd be corn, sometimes there'd be green beans. She's a child of the Depression, and so not even a child of Depression. I mean, born in 1903. She had experienced a lot of down times in her life, and then when the Depression hit, it was even worse. But she developed a skill for making recipes with whatever she had in the cupboard or whatever she had in the refrigerator. I don't think that was that uncommon for most of us our age, my age, our parents, but at least the parents that didn't have a lot of money. So here we have, of course, the potatoes. There's some mustard, Vlasic sweet relish, and I use the Vlasic brand because it has a nice texture. There are other brands, but there's a couple of brands out there, a few store brands that I've tried that have a very coarse texture and it's not very sweet. So I go with the Vlasic. And then sweet gherkins. It doesn't matter what brand that is. I mean, I haven't had a problem with that at all. Mrs. Dash. And down here is some chopped or sliced olives. Doesn't really matter. Some salt. We have green onion, celery. I just have that for an example because the bunch is too large to put there. Some yellow sweet onion, bell pepper, bacon. Oh, where's my finger? There it is. Bacon. There's the finger. And some eggs. There'll be some hard-boiled egg in there. So by the time we're finished with this, oh, where's the mayonnaise? I put the mayonnaise in the refrigerator. I use the Best Foods mayonnaise. And if you are watching this from the Midwest eastward, you will probably know it as Hellmann's. But it's my favorite. Of course, you can use any kind you like, and you can make variations of this very recipe. But I think your friends will like it, your friends and family. So let's get started. So I have 20 potatoes in here. I'm going to be making this recipe for 40 people. So I figure about that size, well, maybe about that size might be a serving. I don't know, maybe a little larger than that, depending on who it is. So I figure 20, I'll do 40, but I'll do it in groups of 20 so that I can handle it. It's going to be too much for a pot. After I cut off some of the little defect areas, I like to cook them about that size, like that. I do some of them smaller and some larger. That way, once it's cooked, the potato salad doesn't get mushy. I like having some of the potatoes that are still a little firm, and some that makes kind of a little bit of a, I don't know if you call it a little more mushy for the body, so it's not too chunky. So some of them are going to be larger, some are going to be smaller. I just mix it up. See, this one I'm just going to cut in half. So when that cooks, it'll be a little firmer than the ones that are cut smaller. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just my little thing. And like I mentioned maybe once before, I am not a chef, so please don't hold me to any culinary preparation standards way above my ability. This is just things that Eileen and I do because we enjoy it. Don't really know what I'm doing, so cut me some slack where that's concerned, and just enjoy what I'm sharing with you. My friends enjoy it. This is going to my friend Larry's birthday party tomorrow at the Daydream Ranch. You may have heard me talking about that in other videos. In fact, I'll be videoing that whole party. I was just over there this morning taking a look around while the ladies were prepping the barn for the party, and that's going to be beautiful. I have a lot of video of the inside of the barn and how wonderful that is. Larry and Yoli have really decorated it up beautiful. So it's going to be a great party there. But I'm going to go for now while I continue cutting these up. I'll be back when they're all cut. Okay, here is the potatoes cut up. This is 20 potatoes. See how it fits nicely into my bowl, and it will also be just right for the size of pot that I use. So I don't know if I mentioned before, but I use the Yukon Golds, or they call them different things, but it's the gold potato. So I leave the skin on. These are a much more flavorful potato than just a russet potato, which is what I always used to use. That's what my mom used. I didn't know there was a different way to do it. Some people will use the reds, the red potatoes. Those are good also, but I prefer the golds. So we'll get these on the pot and get them started to boil. But because one thing I notice with potatoes is they will cook and go past the point of perfect very quickly, kind of like grilling a steak, same thing. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, but it's set at medium high on a gas stove here. I'm going to start cutting up the other vegetable ingredients while this cooks. My next step, I'm going to cut up the bacon and get that in the fry pan so that it can render down and get kind of crispy, and then I'll cut up the vegetables. This is what the bacon looks like as I cut it up. See how I took a full package of bacon and I broke it up into 4 separate lines, I don't know what you call it, segments, portions of 3-4 slices each, maybe 5, and then I just cross-cut them into those pieces like that, and I'll put that in the frying pan. Actually, I like to use a wok because it's deep and it makes it a lot easier to drain and like that. So I'll put those in there and get them started on the stove. The bacon is on the stove. I'm using a wok here, and this is 1 package of Costco Kirkland bacon. Now, just a reminder, I am making a pot of potato salad to serve 40 people, so 40 servings. Normally you wouldn't have this much bacon in your frying pan if you're doing a smaller amount. This is the recipe right now is for 20, but I have all 40. Well, let me say that differently. I have enough bacon in this frying pan for the full 40 servings. I'm just cooking it all at once. I highly recommend, sorry for the wiggly camera, I highly recommend one of these screens to put over your frying pan. Use that all the time whenever you're frying. We don't fry in the house much other than this bacon. We have a stove outside, a camp stove that we actually fry outside. I don't like the grease on everything in the house, but for doing bacon, this is what we use. Also, I keep a plate at the side with a paper towel on it so that I can put the utensils on the side. Now, one thing to be very careful is whenever you have paper towels or just towels that you're wiping off the counter or your hands, keep them away from the flame and from the stove. Fire is a big concern. keep the flammables away. Be very aware of where the flammables are and work safely. Every few minutes I stir the bacon up so that the fat is rendering down. I want to get that fat rendered down. I'm going to drain off a lot of it looks kind of like water, and drain that off, and then I'll be able to brown the bacon. I've stirred the potatoes once or twice to get the ones off the bottom to the top. The cutting boards and the knife and the countertop have all been washed nice and clean after handling the bacon. And I recommend that whenever you are working with bacon or chicken or pork, that you wash everything in between a couple of different times, just to keep everything nice and clean and don't have to worry about the bacteria. This is one bunch of green onions, and as you see, I've chopped them up. They're not super small, but those will go into the bowl there. I put all of the ingredients separately into their own bowls so that I can add them as I like. Sometimes I'll make more, sometimes less. You use the amount that you like. Some people don't like onions, so you'll leave this part out. But I put two different kinds of onions. I put the yellow sweets and the green onions in. They taste differently. The yellow sweet gives a little bit of a crunch along with the celery, which is nice. Gives a little different texture that I like. Again, I should mention again that this one bunch of green onions is for a 40 serving batch. So if you want to do the same proportions that I normally make for my potato salad, if you're doing a 20-person batch, you'd use a half of a bundle of green onions. And if you're doing smaller than that, just for your family, you might want to use just 2 or 3 pieces. The moisture is evaporating out of the bacon nicely, so I won't have to drain it this first time. But as you can see, it's starting to get browned as I turn it often. But a lot of that fat will be rendered down to, I only want the crispy part of the bacon. I don't want it to be chewy. So that will all render down, and then I'm going to cut it up even smaller. It's just easier to cook it in a little bigger pieces. And again, this is one whole package of bacon for 40 serving, so you would use half a package or less, depending on what your preferences are. I like bacon, so almost can't have enough. Put that back on. And potatoes, I'll stir the potatoes again next. As you can see, it's starting to foam up. I don't want that to boil over, so I'll keep a close eye on it now. I'm going to cut up the celery now, and as you can see, I'm using the stalks from the center of the bundle. They're a little more tender. They still have a nice crunch. And the foliage there, the leaves, I like to put a little of that in the salad. It just looks good, but real small, because it doesn't, the texture of it won't be good if it's too large in there, but it looks good in the salad. So I'm going to cut that up and put it in the bowl. Okay, I just stirred the bacon again. A little point that I think is important for safety. One of the things that I like about this screen, among others, just keeping the grease off the stove and some of it out of the air, is you can use it as a shield when you're turning the bacon, so that it doesn't splash out hot oil or grease on you and burn you. You just hold this in front of you and reach around it and stir it. I can't do that and hold the camera at the same time, but it's a good safety feature. I recommend it. Now the potatoes, I turned off the fire under them a little early. I pulled one out, a large piece, and put it in a bowl and poked it with a fork, and it's still firm. But what I do is I turn the fire off under it and just let it continue cooking slower so that I can catch it before it gets too soft. I have to slow it down because the potatoes will continue cooking after you turn off the fire, and even after you drain them. If they're hot, they'll continue cooking, and then your potato salad will be too mushy. The bacon and the potatoes are almost finished cooking, but I was I was chopping up the celery. And you can see I have what proportion I have of the celery itself to the leafy part. And I don't necessarily put all of that in. I cook more from the seat of my pants. So I will put all of this in a bowl, stir it up, and decide how much I want in it as I go along. It's one of those things where I just kind of know what I want. I can't really tell you for sure, but just experiment and put in the amounts that you like to your taste. But this is what it looks like, and I'm going to go back and check those potatoes again now. I pulled out some of the potatoes, tried to look for a larger piece. But see, that's just right there now. Oh, excuse me, that's just right, how it breaks up like that. Let me see if I can, anybody who's cooked some, I'm just sort of preaching to the choir here, but that's how I like them. That's the firmness I like. So I need to get those out of the pot and cool them down quickly before they get too soft. I'll put them in a colander in the sink. Be very careful pouring hot water. Use both hands. Use pot holders, something on your hands to protect your hands, and pour away from you so you don't scald yourself. Let's look at the bacon. Oh my gosh, that is almost there. Yes, that's going to get nice and crispy. That'll be crispy enough when I drain the oil. And I'll show you how I have a little trick how I do that in the pan. I just lift up one side and let gravity do the work. But that's about ready. Potatoes are draining in the colander. Here are the potatoes. I took them from the colander and put them back in the pot so they can cool. And I put the ones from the bottom on the top. I want them to cool quickly. And there's the celery and the onions in their individual bowls. Now I'm going to go and drain the bacon now. Here is how I drain the bacon. I'm not saying that you should do this. I'm not recommending it necessarily. This is just the way that I do it. I take a metal spatula and just set it under one part of the one side of the wok. And another reason I like to use a wok is it's not as easy to spill bacon grease onto the stove where it could catch on fire. And of course, always keep a fire extinguisher near your stove in the kitchen. In fact, you should have one in every room of the house. I don't have one in every room, but I have about 4 of them in the house. But the best way is to not start a fire in the first place. So as you can see, the bacon is self-draining. Now I will let that drain out down into that big puddle, and then I'll show you how I pick it up. I just use paper towels. This is not good to pour down the drain in your sink. You'll always have drain problems if you do that, because that will solidify all the way through your system in every turn, every joint, and you will have nothing but troubles over time. So never pour anything greasy in the sink. Use your paper towels, wipe it out, newspaper, whatever, and put it in the garbage can. Or save it like many people did. My mom did this. She kept bacon grease in a I think like a vegetable can on the side of the stove, and she cooked with that. Now, your doctor's probably going to scold you if you tell him that, but it sure makes some good food. Here I'm ready to start cutting up the red bell pepper in its own bowl and get that portion ready. That's basically the size that I make the bell pepper. I might chop that a little bit more. I've been asked why I don't use a food processor to chop things more uniformly, faster, etc. But my preference is I like the random size and shapes when I cut by hand, and not being a trained cook or chef, or not being trained with a knife when cooking, my ingredients are very random in the size and the shape that they go in. And I like that. I like that texture. I like the way it looks in the salad. I don't like everything being so perfect that it looks like it's been made in a factory kitchen. So I'll continue cutting those up. I've taken about 3 or 4 paper towels and folded them up. See that big puddle of bacon grease down there? I'm going to set this right in there, and I'm going to take my spatula here and I'm going to push that down in there like that and let that soak up that bacon grease there. See if I can get a better angle here. There we go. I'm going to let that soak up there, and that will go into the trash can, not down the kitchen sink drain. Let me get a pair of tongs out of the drawer here. And let's turn that over and see what that looks like in there. Oh, see if I can get under here. See, there's still some there. We'll do that like that. We might have to do it again with a few more towels. As you can see, you will not be having plumbing problems if you do it this way. By spreading out the bacon back in the pan there, that bacon will absorb the remainder of the oil, and it'll dry out a little bit, and then I'm going to chop it up a little smaller on a cutting board and set it aside. I've taken the bacon out of the frying pan, or the wok that I fried it all up, and let's see if I've got my, let's see, gotta reach over here for something here. Okay, so what I did is I'm spreading it out now. I'm not positive that I got it quite as crispy as I like, but if I don't have it how I want it, I can put it in the microwave for a few seconds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this up just like this. Just rock that knife right here like this, and just cut this up a little smaller. I'll be right back after I do that. So I just rocked the knife back and forth like this, real close together this way. Then I went diagonal this way, then diagonal this way. And I've got all the pieces are all about that big, like that. If you can see that, that's how I like it right there. But I'm going to put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds just to make it a little more crispy. It's better to have it less crispy because it's easy to burn. So it's okay to take it out of the frying pan just a little bit sooner than you think, because you can always finish it up in the microwave. That's what I'm going to do right now. 30 seconds in the microwave, I think will be just right. I've stirred them up a little bit, let them cool off. I think that'll be just right, be just enough. They're going to soggy out just a little bit when they get into the potato salad anyway. But when you make the potato salad fresh and it only, you're serving it the same day, the bacon will still be a little crunchy. But this won't be served until tomorrow, so it's not going to really matter that much anyway. It's just me being fussy. Now the potatoes have cooled. It's been an hour or so. I went and took a nap and came back, and so the potatoes are nice and cool. Bacon's done. Got some of the vegetables here. Still have to do the onions. And so we've got most of our ingredients finished. And Eileen just called and said, hey, did you season the steaks for the barbecue tonight? Oops, I forgot all about that. I'm going to go do that right now because we're both hungry. So I'm going to get that done and I'll be back. Okay, I have my mixing bowl. Here's my nice cooled potatoes. If you notice, I left them in larger chunks. I didn't cut them up smaller yet. That will happen in the bowl as I mix because they tend to get smaller and smaller the more you turn them. Not organized, I'm sorry, but there's bacon, onion, celery, and bell pepper. Those are all ready to go in. Now, just as a reminder, this is 20 potatoes cut up here. Because I'm making such a large amount, this 20 potatoes, I spread it out about 10 and 10 evenly between the pot and the mixing bowl. I'm going to go ahead and mix these up separately so I have more control over how much mayonnaise. If it's too large, it's really difficult to get all the ingredients mixed up. So I'm going to break it up. Now, normally, most people would probably make a salad about that size, which would be 10 potatoes for a family. I mean, a larger family gathering or some guests coming over. Of course, it'd be maybe 5, 6 potatoes maybe if you're just doing it for a day, one meal. But I'm going to split it up into 2 sections here and do 10 and 10 here, and then later on I'll have to boil the rest of the potatoes and do that separately to make up my 40. I put about a half cup of each of the ingredients. There's celery, yellow onion, green onion, and maybe not quite a half cup of the bell pepper. But that's just for starters. We'll see what it looks like when it's all put together. I put the Mrs. Dash in there. I just sprinkle it over the top and some salt over the top in there, and it's ready to mix up. I'm going to add some mayonnaise and stir it up. You experiment and see how much of the seasonings you like. I use this spoon here. I really like this. I don't even know where this came from. I don't remember buying it. Eileen must have found it somewhere, but I really like this for making the potato salads, any macaroni salads. But I just grabbed a big scoop of, you can see it's about that size, 1 scoop of mayonnaise from the large jars that we get at Costco. And I put one of those on each side. I'm going to start stirring. Here's another scoop of mayo. See, I'm going to put one of those in there. Another one in that side. And start stirring. Sorry, it's hard to hold the camera at the same time. I don't have this set up on a tripod, which I probably should. So I'm going to stir like this, and then I'm going to start cutting up those potatoes smaller. I added just a little bit more vegetable, a little more salt, because you're never going to get it all mixed in and even in the salad if you just put it on top and stir it once. So you put a little in, stir it, put a little in, stir it, and that's how you get it. Now I just took the lid off of this relish. So I'm going to just do that with the relish. And it's really no way to measure it. I know how much I like, so I'm just putting it in. That's probably about a half bottle right there between those two. I divided this 2 1/4 ounce black olives between my 2 bowls here, which this is 20 potatoes. I've got them split up 10 and 10 into these mixing bowls. So I divided this can. When I do the other half, I'll do the same thing with another can. I used probably between 1/4 and a half cup each onto these bowls. So a 10 potato salad, that's about somewhere between a 1/4 and a half. I mean, I didn't top off the measuring cup. Just put it in kind of visually with some more mayonnaise. Time to stir. I'm going to dice up these sweet gherkin pickles and put those in the salad. I'm also going to add some I'm going to also add some mustard on the top. And a lot of people might question the mustard, but it's very good. It is very tasty. But also my wife likes to add just about a half teaspoon of sugar to the mix. But you want to do that early on. Might be a good idea to mix that into the mayonnaise before you add it to the potatoes. But she says it kills the bitter flavor of the mustard and just kind of adds a little more flavor. You can't taste it, it's not sweet, but I don't do that, but she does, and it's still good. I mean, I don't really notice the difference, to tell you the truth, but she says she does. But there is a little bit of a bitter flavor to the mustard, and I think that cancels out some of that. But you won't notice the difference, I don't think. The diced gherkins and a few squirts of mustard are in there. I'm going to chop up some eggs and add the hard-boiled egg in. Here's my fancy schmancy little egg slicer. turn it this way, I'll do it left-handed. Slice it that way, take it out, put it in the other way. Got to kind of hold it here because it wants to mush out. But I basically just diced it. So watch this. See what it did? Just made it into perfect, what I like for the salad here. I can just take the rest of it there, but I'm going to do that times about 3 in each side, so that'd be 6 for a 10 potato salad. If the potatoes don't chop up to a nice size by just doing the stabbing like I did with this, I have, because you want the potatoes to be firm, but they don't always break up. So I'll just take the knife and I'll go like this, and it'll cut those firm potatoes up. Of course, it'll be down deep like this. I just can't do it with one hand. But you go through here like this, and this will cut up those firm potatoes. That way you've got a nice firm salad. Some of the potatoes are soft and kind of mushy, and then some of them are firm. And it's starting to take shape. I mixed in those eggs. Can't even see that they're in there, but they're in there. And they also absorb up some of the mayonnaise. The mayonnaise may appear at first. Now go slow because people have different opinions and tastes for mayonnaise, but go slow with it. But if you get a little bit of too much mayonnaise in there, if you let this sit for just a little while and then you put those eggs in there, that mayonnaise gets absorbed up into these potatoes. And these potatoes already have a nice kind of sweet flavor to them. And when that mayonnaise gets in there, oh man, it's just delicious. So we're about finished with this. I'm trying to think of what else I'm supposed to put in it. What did I forget? Anyway, I'll top it. I'll put it in bowls and I'll top it off with some paprika and some sliced egg. But I think I'm finished. We'll see what this all looks like in a nice serving bowl. The potato salad is finished and put in its serving bowl and chilled overnight. As you can see, I topped it with some slices of hard-boiled egg, and I sprinkled a little parsley and paprika over the top before I put the eggs on. And here is the pretty pedestal bowl that I use when I'm serving this potato salad. But anyway, thanks for following along, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.